Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting Dragon Ball discussion. Yo, if you're new to the nickabenson channel, make sure to smash that subscribe button. We really appreciate it. We're trying to reach over 470 subscribers, and that's something that we simply can't do without you. Yo, if you like this video, make sure to like this video. We have a minimum like goal of 5 likes for this video. So please, if you smash that like button, it helps us get us ever closer to that goal. Yo, if you love Dragon Ball discussions, as well as Yu-Gi-Oh! And Skullgirls gameplay, as well as some college lifestyle vlogs, or if you only like some of those things, make sure to subscribe. Keep yourself updated and entertained with plenty of content coming in all the time. Today's video, we'll be talking about parallel worlds, universes, and dimensions in Dragon Ball and the difference between each of those things. Let's start off by talking about parallel worlds. So in Dragon Ball, the way time travel works is that you don't run across a singular linear timeline. So essentially, whenever you travel back in time, you travel into an alternate timeline or parallel world, not your own. So let's say you made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in the Dragon Ball universe, right? Well, let's try and avoid using terms like universe while we're explaining it. So let's say you exist in the Dragon Ball anime and you want to eat a sandwich and you don't know if you want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or a ham and cheese sandwich. So you go to the kitchen and you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and you eat it and you go, damn, I wanted something savory, not something sweet. So I should have eaten the ham and cheese sandwich, not the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So you jump in your capsule corp time machine and you go back in time and tell yourself, yo, you don't want the PB&J, you want the ham and cheese sandwich. And then when you travel back to your timeline, like you travel back to what you think should be like your present or whatever, you look at your plate and you still see like peanut butter and jelly smudges on your plate, and you're like, what the fuck happened? Essentially what happens is whenever you travel back in time in the time machine, you traveled into a parallel past, the past of a parallel world, and you told that version of yourself to eat the ham and cheese sandwich, not the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So you in your timeline still ate the PB&J, but the other timeline you now knows that that's not what they wanted, and they'll eat the ham and cheese. So essentially, these worlds aren't like worlds that already exist that you travel to by accident in the time machine. It's more like whenever you use a time machine to go back in time in Dragon Ball, it causes you to jump into, no, it doesn't just cause you to jump into, you create a parallel world that you then interact with. Essentially, you create a copy of the world that you travel to in the past, and you can change their history, but it doesn't change our own history. In the manga, things have changed a little bit, though. The new time machine in the manga is capable of traveling to parallel worlds in general. So before, you would be like bound. They had this thing where there was like 2 timelines, one that was created by the time machine and one that was just like our base timeline or whatever. It's kind of weird. It actually is really weird to talk about the more that I get into it. But the new time machine, the point of it is that it can travel to all the parallel worlds regardless. But for a while, there was this thing where it seemed like Trunks could travel to our time specifically, like the main continuity of the show's timeline, in his own timeline, and he was kind of going back and forth between those. But whenever they use the time machine and they're not traveling to a parallel world that they've already traveled to, they travel to other ones. So the best way to explain it for Dragon Ball is that the different parallel worlds are the different alternate timelines in which someone has traveled back in time to cause a change in time, has created its own entire world. So the Future Trunks arc, where they travel to Trunks' future, it isn't our main timeline's future. It's an alternate timeline or a parallel world where Trunks is interacting with Goku Black and everything. There are also these things called the time rings that the Kaioshins have, and there's essentially a time ring for every parallel world. So you put on a time ring and it'll allow you to travel to that parallel world, but you can only use the time rings if you are a Kaioshin. And Kaioshins are like the gods of Dragon Ball. So it's a very special form of time travel. So that's cool. Next up, we have the universes. So in Dragon Ball, there are 12 universes, but there used to be more. Xeno-sama erased a few of the universes, and Xeno-sama is one of the more powerful characters of Dragon Ball, as can be illustrated by the fact that he had destroyed universes. He actually doesn't just destroy them, he erases them from existence, but that's beyond the point. So in a lot of shows, parallel universes don't work in exactly the same way as Dragon Ball. So I actually feel like it's easier to talk about the parallel worlds thing because alternate timelines are something that a lot of people are used to. For Dragon Ball, you have parallel universes in which you have twin universes that count up to 12. So like, no, they count up to 13. I'm sorry. Universe 7 and Universe 6 are twin universes. So they add up together to 13. 1 and 12 are twin universes and they add up to 13. And if you have twin universes, then they'll have a lot of similarities, but they'll still be different kind of thing. And if you don't add up to 13, then you're not twins, so your universes aren't exactly similar. For example, in Universe 7, Goku, Vegeta, those are like Saiyans. And Saiyans exist in Universe 7. And their twin universe, Universe 6, they have Saiyans as well. That's a part of them being twin universes. Now, they're not exactly the same Saiyans. It's not like Goku and Vegeta meet like Goku and Vegeta from Universe 6. You know, it's not an exact copy, but it's more of, you know, they have similarities kind of thing. So it's not like each of these universes has their own parallel Goku and Vegeta, but rather they're all their own universe, like entire universe with their own planets and unique characters and settings. And they have a twin universe that has similar characters and settings to their twin, but they're not all different versions of the same thing, if that makes sense. Because a lot of multiverses, like in Sliders, if you ever watch that show, in Sliders, the multiverse was like essentially all possible worlds that could exist. And Dragon Ball doesn't go that far. You know, there are only 12 different universes, and pairs are similar, but they're not all similar to each other. They all are like their own unique space, and I think that's actually rather cool. So just to do a recap of what we've already gone over in the video, parallel worlds are essentially just alternate timelines. So if you edit time, you don't edit your own time, you edit the time of a parallel world, or really you're creating a parallel world by trying to travel through time. That's the part where that one gets complicated, is that time travel causes them to exist kind of thing. And then for the multiple universes in Dragon Ball, it's that there are 12 universes, but there used to be more. Pairs of universes that add up to 13 because they're all numbered 1 through 12 are similar. But other than that, they're all distinct worlds with their own characters, settings, planets, races, abilities, etc. Okay, so now that we've talked about parallel worlds and universes, we'll get into dimensions. Now, in Dragon Ball, Akira Toriyama has said that each of the movies in Dragon Ball exist in their own dimension. So whether we're talking about Fusion Reborn, Battle of Gods, Resurrection F, you know, if it's a Dragon Ball movie, it's not within the continuity or canon of the normal Dragon Ball universe. And canon is fuck. So canon has to do with what's considered to be established in the Dragon Ball lore or story, and has little to do with parallel worlds, universes, and dimensions. But at the same time, dimensions kind of do go into what is canon. It's kind of weird. So essentially, when talking about the Dragon Ball lore, there's like a solid story that's going on about Goku progressing through the events of Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, and Dragon Ball Super. Dragon Ball GT is not canon. Toriyama calls it a side story, It's not a part of the main story or continuity, which means if we were talking about the Dragon Ball story proper, meaning just the main story, you don't include GT. In the same way, you don't include these movies, and the explanation for why you don't include the movies is that the movies each exist in their own dimension. So there are a multitude of Dragon Ball Z, and now Dragon Ball. No, even the Dragon Ball Super, like the movies that have to do with Dragon Ball Super arcs, are still called Dragon Ball Z in the title, I believe. So there are a multitude of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z theatrical films, and each of these films exist in their own dimension. So there are separate dimensions where each of the films exist, and then we have the different universes, which are not the movies. They're their own thing, where you have different beings that exist in different universes, and the paired universes are similar, but they're not all similar to each other. And then you have the parallel worlds, which are all alternate timelines. And I'm sorry that this video is kind of like a mismatch of a bunch of things, but I'm hoping that it's making sense. Like, I know I go into a lot of talking, but just to simplify things, parallel worlds are alternate timelines. So if you travel through time, you travel to a parallel world. The multiple universes are just completely different universe spaces where the main Dragon Ball story takes place in Universe 7. And then we have a twin universe, Universe 6. And it's our twin universe because when you add their numbers together, it equals 13. And because they have similar characteristics, races, abilities, techniques, planets, things like that, that are shared between the two different universes, where it's like, hey, I noticed there's something similar in this universe to the other one. And each of the universes have their own twins, but other than that, they're all different spaces with their own gods. They have their own sets of gods and things of that nature. And then you have the dimensions, and essentially whenever a new Dragon Ball movie comes out, there's another dimension that exists. But dimensions go a little farther than the movies, I must say. Like, just restraining it to the movies is like an oversimplification of dimensions. So in Dragon Ball, there are actually more dimensions than just the movies. For example, the hyperbolic time chamber, which is a location that you can go to at Kami's Lookout, where you can train in 1 day in our time, but in the hyperbolic time chamber, you get as much time as like 1 year. So 24 hours our time is 1 year hyperbolic time chamber time. And it works that way because it's an alternate dimension that you're entering. So like that's another dimension. Cocoette, who's a member of the Pride Troopers, her power is that she creates pocket dimensions. So like that's she has the power to make other dimensions. Like that's what she does. And then his time skip ability involves him storing time in pocket dimensions. So he can make dimensions as well. So dimensions are thrown around a little bit more, as you can see, the use of dimensions than time, than like parallel worlds and universes. And it's actually rather interesting because we've been shown that Whis, or Whis, yeah, it's definitely Whis. He's not named after P. Whis has a way to travel between the different universes. It's called the cube. But they've traveled without the cube before. The cube is just one of the methods of traveling between universes. And I may be wrong. Correct me in the comment section below about whether or not Whis has the cube. It's either Whis or like Vados, or they could both have a cube. You know, like, I don't know. I'll be honest. I know of the cube's existence, and I know of the cube's ability to travel between universes, but its ownership, I'm a little shaky on. But you can travel between universes by using the cube. And I've seen Beerus and Goku hold on to Whis' shoulder, and Whis just kind of appears to fly really quickly and travel between universes. So that's also a thing. So there is a way to travel between universes. Um, of course, the time machine, as well as the time rings, are a way for you to travel to the different parallel worlds. And then for dimensions, there's open hole in dimension is an actual technique in the Daisenshu, which is the official Dragon Ball guide. Um, and it's a technique that allows you to open a hole in a dimension that allows you to travel outside of that dimension. But it can only be used by beings with an extremely high battle rating. But by breaking a hole in a dimension, you can potentially travel between dimensions. We've seen it used to break out of Hit's time storage. No. They didn't use that particular technique. Goku powers up and hits time storage parallel dimension. He is able to break out, going Super Saiyan Blue. We see Cocoette's pocket dimensions be broken out of by Kale powering up into Super Saiyan. And we've seen Vegeta power up in the hyperbolic time chamber, or the room of spirit and time, as it's called, in order to break out of the hyperbolic time chamber. And then we've seen opening a hole in the dimension used by Boo and Gotenks in order to escape the hyperbolic time chamber or room of spirit and time. So it's definitely been demonstrated that you can travel between dimensions. I don't believe we've seen it used yet for the movies. Like, as far as I'm aware, we've yet to see someone open a hole in a dimension to move between the film dimensions. But it seems like if, as Toriyama stated, the movies are each their own dimension, that should be possible. And we actually have a whole video on the channel about how dimension breaking could lead to potential crossovers. So definitely make sure you check that out if you're into it. We've been posting a lot of Dragon Ball discussions in the last hour or so. So if this kind of thing interests you, definitely make sure to check out those other videos. If you like this video, make sure to like this video. As stated before, we're trying to get this up to the like goal of 5 likes. So each time you guys smash that like button, it helps us get closer to that goal, and we truly appreciate it. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're trying to hit over 470 subscribers. We can only do that with your help. Also, how can you be updated whenever we do these videos if you're not a subscriber? I know. You can ding, 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 ring that bell so you'll be notified whenever we do the live stream. The bell will send you notifications, but I understand that notifications is a higher commitment. Like, if you're in the notification squad, you really love the content. Because I'll be honest, even I don't ding, 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 ring that bell for a lot of YouTubers. It's like a special place. So if you do ring that bell for us, I truly appreciate it. Thank you all once again. I truly appreciate you guys all watching, and I do mean that. Thank you once again, and I hope you have a wonderful day. This is your host, Jet Black, not to be confused with Goku Black, logging out. Peace.